The last time you were truly angry. Do you remember what you said? Do you remember what you did? Or worse, do you remember the look on someone else's face? Right after? Most people spend their entire lives being controlled by a feeling that lasts only a few seconds, and those few seconds cost them everything. Today that changes. If you're new here, this channel exists for one reason: to take the ancient wisdom of the Stoic philosophers and make it work in your real modern life. And today, we're tackling one of the most requested topics this community has ever asked about: anger. Not the philosophy of anger, not a lecture on why you shouldn't feel it, but 7 practical Stoic-backed things you can do, right now, in the heat of the moment, to control your anger before it controls you. Now here's something I want you to understand before we begin. The Stoics didn't believe in suppressing emotion. They weren't cold. They weren't robots. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, who commanded armies and governed millions, wrote in his private journal about his own anger, his own frustration, his own moments of wanting to lash out. He wrote, "How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it." Think about that for a moment. The damage anger causes is almost always worse than whatever triggered it. And the Stoics had a solution, not a suppression, a transformation. Let's get into it. Section number 1, the pause principle. Create space between stimulus and response. The first thing, and possibly the most powerful of all 7, is what I call the pause principle, and it comes directly from Epictetus. Epictetus was a former slave. He had no political power, no wealth, no status, and yet he became one of the most psychologically free human beings who ever lived, because he discovered something that most people spend their entire lives missing. He said, "Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space lies our freedom." Now, here's the problem. Anger is one of the fastest emotional reactions the human body produces. When something triggers you, someone cuts you off in traffic, your boss humiliates you in a meeting, your partner says that thing, your brain fires before you can even think. The amygdala, the emotional alarm system of your brain, hijacks your rational mind in milliseconds. The Stoics called this the first movement, the involuntary jolt of emotion. And here's the key. They said, you cannot stop the first movement. That flash of heat, that surge in your chest, that is human. That is biological. What you can control is what comes after it. So here's the practice. The moment you feel anger rising, you do one thing. You stop. Not forever, not to suppress. Just stop. You insert a deliberate pause between what happened to you and what you do next. In that pause, even a pause of 3 seconds, your prefrontal cortex, your rational brain, has time to come back online. You move from being reactive to being responsive, from being driven to being directed. How to practice it in real life? When anger spikes, take one slow, deliberate breath through the nose. Hold for 2 seconds. Release through the mouth. That's it. That's the pause. It sounds almost insultingly simple, but I want you to try it the next time someone says something that makes your blood boil. Because in that 3-second pause, you will discover something extraordinary. You will discover that you have a choice. And for the Stoics, that discovery was everything. Section number 2, the dichotomy reset. Ask, is this within my control? The second thing that controls anger immediately is what I call the dichotomy reset, and this is the absolute cornerstone of Stoic philosophy. Epictetus opened his famous handbook, the Enchiridion, with these words: "Some things are within our power, while others are not." 11 words. 11 words that, if you truly internalized them, would eliminate at least 60% of your daily anger. Think about what makes you angry on a typical day. Someone doesn't respond to your message. A project gets delayed. Someone disagrees with you publicly. The weather ruins your plans. Traffic makes you late. Now ask yourself, which of those things can you actually control? Not one of them. What you can control, how you respond, what you think, what you choose to do next. Now, here's where people get this wrong. They hear, you can't control it, and they think that means, don't care. The Stoics were not indifferent. Marcus Aurelius cared deeply about his empire. Seneca cared about his students. They worked passionately, fought relentlessly, and loved deeply. But they refused to suffer over things outside their power. There's a profound difference between caring about an outcome and being emotionally destroyed by one. The practice, in the heat of anger. When you feel the heat rising, ask yourself one question. Is this within my control? If yes, channel the energy, act, fix it, address it. If no, pause, breathe, and consciously choose to redirect your energy toward what you can do. I want to share a story with you. There was a Stoic practice, reportedly used by Marcus Aurelius himself, where he would imagine the worst thing that could happen as a result of the thing angering him, and almost always when he mapped it out fully, the worst outcome was survivable. And if it was survivable, it was manageable. And if it was manageable, the anger was optional. Let that sit with you. Your anger, in most moments of daily life, is optional. Not easy to let go, but optional. And knowing that is the beginning of real power. Section number 3, the perspective shift. View from above. The third practice is one that Marcus Aurelius used personally, and he described it in the Meditations in striking detail. He called it the view from above, and I want to take you through it right now. Close your eyes if you're somewhere safe to do that. Imagine you're looking at yourself from above, from the ceiling of the room you're in. Now rise higher. See your building from above, your neighborhood, your city, your country, the continent. Now you're in orbit. The earth is a blue marble below you, and somewhere on that marble, a tiny, tiny human being is furious about an email, about what someone said, about traffic. Does it feel quite as large now? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "How many are Fabius, Scipio, Cato, and before them how many a host of men inflamed with passion have been laid low and resolved to dust." He was reminding himself, and us, that the mightiest emperors, the fiercest warriors, the most powerful people in history, are now dust. Their angers, their obsessions, their rage, all of it dissolved into time. This is not a depressing thought. This is liberation. Because if the great Caesar's fury is gone, then so will yours be. And knowing that it will pass, knowing that in 5 years, in 10 years, this moment will be a faint memory, gives you permission to let it go now. The practice. When anger peaks, ask yourself, will this matter in 5 years? If yes, act deliberately, not angrily. If no, let it go, completely. And if you need more perspective, zoom out even further. What would a wise person standing outside this situation see right now? Not an indifferent person, a wise one. What would they counsel you to do? Often, you already know the answer. You just needed the height to see it. Before we go further, I want to pause and ask you something. Which of these first 3, the pause, the dichotomy reset, or the view from above, resonates most with you? Drop a number in the comments, 1, 2, or 3, because understanding which of these speaks to you personally is actually important, and I'll explain why at the end of this video. Also, if this content is adding value to your life, please consider subscribing to Wisdom of the Stoics. We put out content designed to actually change how you think, not just fill your time. Now, let's keep going, because the next 4 are where things get really interesting. Section number 4, the reframe. Anger is always a story you're telling yourself. Here's something that will challenge you. Seneca, one of the most brilliant minds of the ancient world, wrote an entire treatise on anger. It's called De Ira, on anger. And in it he made a claim that I want you to sit with. He said, anger is never without reason, but seldom a good one. And then he went further. He said that anger is always at its root a judgment, an interpretation, a story you are telling yourself about what happened and what it means. 2 people can experience the exact same event and feel completely different emotional responses. Your colleague gives you blunt feedback on your work. One person interprets it as, she's attacking me. She's trying to make me look bad. Another person interprets it as, he's being honest because he wants the project to succeed. Same words, same tone. Completely different emotional outcomes. B-roll, 2 people, same scene, 2 different reactions. The Stoics would say, The anger doesn't come from what happened. It comes from what you decided it meant. And here is the extraordinary power of that insight. If the anger comes from your interpretation, then you can change the interpretation. Not to deceive yourself, not to be naive, but to be rigorous in your thinking. The practice, the reframe. When you're angry, ask, is there another interpretation of what just happened? One that is equally or more likely to be true. Maybe the person who was short with you on the phone is dealing with a family crisis you know nothing about. Maybe the driver who cut you off is rushing to a hospital. Maybe the colleague who didn't credit your idea in the meeting simply forgot. Not malice, just human imperfection. You won't always be right with the alternative interpretation, but you will be less angry. And less anger means clearer thinking. And clearer thinking means better decisions. And better decisions. That's where your real power lives. Seneca also offered a practice I find deeply useful. He said, when you feel anger beginning to rise, imagine the person who angered you as a child. Imagine them young, vulnerable, learning to navigate a world that was often unkind to them. Not to excuse their behavior, but to see them as human. Because anger has a much harder time surviving in the presence of genuine empathy. Section number 5, the body protocol. Your physiology is a lever. The fifth thing, and this one is deeply practical in a physical sense, is what I call the body protocol. Because here's something the Stoics understood intuitively that modern neuroscience has now confirmed. Your mind and body are not separate systems. When anger spikes, your body changes. Your heart rate increases. Your muscles tighten. Your jaw clenches. Your breathing becomes shallow and fast. Cortisol and adrenaline flood your system. You are, quite literally, preparing for combat. And here's the critical insight. This process works in reverse. If you deliberately change your body, you will change your mind. Seneca wrote, when you are in the grip of passion, recline on your bed and rest. Not because he was telling you to run away, but because he knew changing your physical posture changes your psychological state. The body protocol, 4 steps. Step 1, slow your breathing. Breathe in for 4 counts. Hold for 4, out for 6. The extended exhale activates your parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest mode, and physiologically counters the adrenaline response. Step 2, unclench your hands. Open your fists. Spread your fingers. This single physical act sends a signal to your nervous system that the threat has passed. Step 3, drop your shoulders. When we're angry, our shoulders rise and tighten. Consciously lower them. Roll them back. Step 4, lower your voice. This is counterintuitive when you want to shout, but it is extraordinarily powerful. Speaking more slowly, more quietly, forces your nervous system to downregulate. It also confuses and disarms whoever you're angry at, because they were expecting escalation. Marcus Aurelius wrote about this too. He practiced what we might call deliberate slowness in moments of conflict. Moving slowly, speaking slowly, thinking slowly. Because speed in anger is the enemy of wisdom. The body is not just a passenger in your emotional life. It is a lever, and you can pull it. Section number 6, Memento Mori. Remember that you will die. This one may feel uncomfortable, but I promise you, it is one of the most liberating practices in the entire Stoic tradition. The Stoics practice something called memento mori. It translates literally as, remember that you will die. Before you dismiss this as morbid, stay with me. Marcus Aurelius returned to this practice again and again in the Meditations. He would remind himself, in the heat of frustration, in the middle of conflict, that both he and the person angering him were mortal. That this moment, this argument, this rage, this grievance would one day be utterly forgotten, not as a reason to despair, as a reason to choose differently. Because when you truly feel your mortality, not intellectually, but in your bones, your priorities shift. The argument you are about to have about something trivial suddenly feels very small against the backdrop of the time you actually have. Seneca wrote, let us prepare our minds as if we had come to the very end of life. Let us postpone nothing. What he meant was, live with urgency, live with intention. Don't waste your finite hours, your finite breaths, being consumed by anger over things that ultimately don't matter. The practice. In the moment of anger, ask yourself, if I knew I had 1 year left to live, would I spend energy on this? If the answer is yes, then it truly matters. Address it calmly, seriously, with full attention. If the answer is no, then you already know what to do. Let it go. Not because it doesn't hurt, not because you were wrong to feel it, but because your time is sacred. And the Stoics believed, above almost everything else, that how you spend your attention is how you spend your life. Section number 7, the evening review. Daily reflection as the ultimate anger antidote. The 7th and final practice is not something you do in the moment of anger. It's something you do after. Every day, and over time, it may be the most powerful of all. The Stoics, particularly Seneca, practiced the evening review. Each night before sleep, Seneca would examine his day like a judge examining evidence. He wrote, "When the light has been removed and my wife has fallen silent, I examine my entire day and go back over what I've done and said." He asked himself 3 questions. What did I do wrong today? What did I do well? How could I have done better? Now, notice something important here. He didn't just focus on failure. He also acknowledged what he did well. The Stoic evening review is not self-flagellation. It is honest self-assessment, in the spirit of growth, applied specifically to anger. Each evening ask yourself, was there a moment today where I lost my temper, or came close to it? If yes, what triggered it? What did I do? What would the wise version of me have done instead? And then, crucially, what can I put in place tomorrow so that trigger has less power over me? This practice does something extraordinary over time. It makes you a student of your own anger. You begin to see the patterns. You notice that it's always the same 3 or 4 triggers, that it tends to spike at certain times of day, that certain people or environments set you off consistently. And once you see the pattern, you can prepare for it. The Stoics called this premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of challenges. Tomorrow morning, before your day begins, you can say, today I may encounter X. If I do, here is how I will respond. You rehearse the wisdom before the test arrives. And slowly, over days, then weeks, then months, you change. Not because you suppressed your anger, but because you understood it. And understanding is always the beginning of mastery. Let me bring all 7 together for you. 1. The pause principle. Insert space between what happens and how you respond. That space is your freedom. 2. The dichotomy reset. Ask, is this within my control? If not, redirect your energy. 3. The view from above. Zoom out. Gain perspective. Ask, will this matter in 5 years? 4. The reframe. Challenge your interpretation. Is there a more generous, or more accurate, story you could be telling? 5. The body protocol. Use your physiology as a lever. Slow breath, open hands, lower voice. The body leads the mind. 6. Memento mori. Remember your mortality, and the mortality of everyone around you. Let it dissolve the trivial and clarify the essential. 7. The evening review. Become a student of your own anger. Examine your day. See the patterns. Prepare for tomorrow. Now, I want to say something directly to you. Controlling your anger is not about becoming emotionless. It is not about becoming passive. It is not about being a pushover. Marcus Aurelius led armies. Seneca advised emperors. Epictetus inspired generations of powerful thinkers. These were not passive men. They were fierce men, who learned to direct their fire toward what mattered, who chose every day to respond with wisdom rather than react with heat. And that choice, that daily, moment-by-moment choice, is what made them remarkable. The Stoics believed something profound, that you cannot control the wind, but you can always adjust your sails. Your anger is not your enemy. Uncontrolled anger is. And today, you have 7 new ways to take back control. Use them. If this video gave you even one insight that helps you navigate anger differently, share it with someone who needs it today. And I'm genuinely curious, in the comments below, which of these 7 practices are you going to try first? Drop your answer below. I read every single comment. If you're new here, welcome. Subscribe to Wisdom of the Stoics. We put out content like this regularly, deep, practical Stoic philosophy for your real life. Until next time, be deliberate, be wise, and remember, the obstacle is always the way.